Sorry for the delay. We are streaming.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I welcome everybody to the Board of Education Community Engagement Committee meeting, and I call this meeting to order. Dr. Albright, may I have a roll call, please?
Rebecca Betson.
Here.
Joshua Martinez.
Here.
Courtney Jackson.
Here.
Janelle Astorga.
Here. Our first item is to consider adoption of the March 17th, 2026 Community Engagement Committee meeting agenda. May I have a motion and a second?
I move to approve the March 17th, 2026 Community Engagement Committee meeting agenda. This is Member Jackson.
I second it. This is Member Betson.
Thank you. We have a motion for Member Jackson, a second for Member Betson. Can I please have a roll call?
Rebecca Betson.
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Joshua Martinez.
Yes.
Janelle Astorga.
Yes, so that motion carries. Our next item is to consider approval of the minutes from the Community Engagement Committee meeting on February 17th, 2026. May I have a motion and a second?
I move to approve the minutes from the Community Engagement Committee meeting on February 17th, 2026. This is Member Jackson.
I second it. This is Member Betson.
Thank you. There was a motion from Member Jackson and a second from Member Betson. Is there any discussion on those minutes? Nope. Perfect. Dr. Albright, can I have a roll call, please?
Rebecca Betson.
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Joshua Martinez.
Yes.
Janelle Astorga.
Yes. Great. The next section is public forum. I believe we have one public forum guest, so I'll go ahead and read read that introduction. Welcome to our public forum guests. When you signed up to speak, you were asked to review rules and expectations which our presiding officer will enforce. The New Mexico Open Meetings Act requires that our agenda specify in advance the items that will be discussed and voted on during the meeting. Therefore, public forum is not a dialogue among speakers and board members, but rather a chance to hear from our community. We will call participants to speak in the order they signed up. Online guests will stay in a virtual waiting room until it is their turn to speak. We have set aside 45 minutes for public forum. If there are 22 or fewer speakers, you will each have 2 minutes to speak. Otherwise, you will have 1 minute. Tonight, we have 1 speaker. Once your time is up, you will be asked to quickly wrap up. If you feel unable to convey your message, you may email boarded@aps.edu. At this time, Mr. Gonzalez, please introduce the speaker.
Thank you, Board Member Astorga. Our speaker this evening is Janet Sayers. Janet, I see you there. When you're ready to speak, you'll have 2 minutes.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if you were going to unmute me or what. So thank you, board members and APS staff, Superintendent Blakey. And I very much, again, look forward to the efforts of the board members to reach out to the community, to make new connections. And I'm sure you're already aware of 2 opportunities on April 7 at Bonifacio building. That will be the Metro night where you get to see all the different high school and middle school artwork. And that's a great opportunity, I think, to just interact. And then the Metro Art Awards, which are on April 28. A lot of parents, grandparents, sisters, brothers come to that, and, a very joyful time. So having said that, now I need to just bring up something that is bugging me, because I think it's a distraction, a hindrance to community engagement. And that's the policy for walkthrough of high schools by reunion groups. My class of 66, 60th anniversary, is returning to Del Norte to see the only building on campus that remains from 1964. In order for us to walk onto the school grounds, walk into the building, and walk into the gym, we're not going to have food. We're not going to have a program. We're just going to walk around. I'm having to use a program called Facilitron, which I find very confusing. And then I'm going to have to pay for a million insurance policy, which says a licensee will possess a liability insurance policy with minimum limits of $1 million. A licensee will add APS as an additional insured. It's going to cost me about $75 for us to walk onto public school grounds, look around, be there not even an hour. And I don't think that is an encouragement for the community to connect and be supportive. So otherwise, I'm a happy camper. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Board Member Astorga, that completes public forum.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Sayers. Always appreciate you coming to speak to us. So I will take us to our next agenda item, which is discussion on the process for presenting at the Community Engagement Committee meeting. Last time we met, we talked a little bit about having organizations or folks from the community come to present to the Community Engagement Committee around things that will help the APS committee do their job. So Christy and I put together a support document that is a draft process for requesting to present. So I hope you all had time to look over that. It's also in Diligent for those folks following online. I will first open it for discussion or questions, and then I will also add in some quick edits that I would like to see in this document. But is there any discussion or questions first? Member Jackson.
Thank you. I appreciate putting this document together, and thank you for having it for us so that we had a chance to review. The only request that I think I have is that we make sure that this document is in line with what the board's role is versus what the superintendent's role is. And so as I was percolating on this document, I was envisioning presentations that might veer into operational issues instead of board governance issues. So I think that's just kind of my main concern, is that we are really tight on the parameters that bring the organizations to us. Not that we want to curtail any sort of discussion, but I think it's just really important that we stick with what the Community Engagement Committee's role is, which is our job is to make sure that we are focused on the goals and the guardrails, and that we are helping to cultivate the public understanding of what the district's goals and guardrails are, along with what that process is, and then the community's understanding around that. So that's a long way of saying I just want to make sure that we're very tight on the presentations being board specific, not superintendent specific.
Thank you, Member Jackson. I think that is something that we continue to do in our work as board members, is try to inform the public of what the board does versus the superintendent. So I think that's important as well. And that is something that I will share in my edit later on. But Member Martinez, Member Betson, is there anything that you all have, any comments or questions?
This is Member Betson. I do not have any comments or questions.
Yeah, thank you, Chairwoman Starga. I guess I kind of have a clarifying question. I completely understand what Member Jackson is saying, but I also think that there are questions that community members may have as it relates to operational. And so what does this look like as far as kind of like a dual conversation about board as well as administration and staff to be able to address some of those operational concerns as well.
Yeah, that's a great segue to some of the edits that I have, Member Martinez. So I'm going to jump in with that. So something that I would like to add is under the administration review section, we can add something saying if a presentation would require staff prep time or anything that requires more administrative work, then we can send that over to administration, right? So it would be something like campus-specific or individual service issues will be directed to the superintendent's office so that they still feel like they're being heard and that there's a process moving forward, but that is not directly aligned with the board work or this committee's work. So actually that would be under the request section or request form. I'm sorry, not the administrative review. But I was hoping something along those lines could be added for that. So before I move on to the other edits, does that kind of answer your question a little bit? I see head nodding. Great. So something else that I wanted to discuss in addition to this process was under the determine eligibility and topic alignment section. Similar to what Member Jackson was saying, just being really aligned with our goals and guardrails and ensuring that the presentations are specific to our work so that we are able to move forward and have any decisions or any actions that come from the presentations, and it's not just a presentation for a presentation, right? There's some action towards it. So I'm hoping to add a statement that says that for eligibility, the presenter must submit a statement with the following and do something along the lines of our presentation will help the district move from blank to blank on goal 1, 2, 3, or 4. And then also adding something along the lines of our presentation safeguards the community value of blank by preventing blank. So always tying it back into our goals and guardrails and ensuring that their presentation does have some type of connection. So every request must be anchored to a goal and guardrail, which is really easy because our events are also tailored to the goals and guardrails. So before I move on from that one, how does that sound for everybody? It's just adding that request for the presenters. Member Jackson.
No, I mean, I appreciate it. I think because right off the bat, it sets the tone for if you're going to present to us, it has to be within the confines of, the student outcome goals and guardrails. And I just wanted to go back really quickly to Board Member Martinez's question regarding that there are still questions about operational. I think that's where the town halls that we are introducing are going to address, those issues are going to be more directly addressed. That's not really the role of the Community Engagement Committee. We are a function of the board, not a function of the administration. And so that's where the introduction of town halls will really help with that issue.
Any other comments or questions or not agreeing, sorry, I can't speak today, not agreeing with that addition?
I guess I kind of want to just touch on what Courtney just said, is that I don't want to get into a position where I kind of felt like we were when we went to the oh gosh, I'm sorry, I'm going to draw a blank now. Where the administration came in after us and we were there first, and it's like we didn't have the
Tribal
answer.
consultation.
Thank you. It was at the tip of my tongue.
Yeah.
Tribal consultation. I kind of felt like we could listen to their complaints or their concerns, but we really didn't have the answers or even the power because it was more operational type stuff. And so I don't want to get into that type of position where we're not able to, like, these are wasted time for the community and us, you know what I mean? I want to make sure that we have some avenues, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yes, definitely. I think that's why this would help because they're still able to send in a request for presenting and we're still able to read it, but in that moment we're able to decide, okay, this will work better for the committee or for administration, and it won't take until they're presenting to us for us to decide that. So I think it'll work out.
Okay, got it. Got it. Thank you for that clarification.
Yes, of course. So those are two edits. The one under request section that talks about anything that's not system level, which is more campus specific, will go towards the superintendent's office or directed to the superintendent's office. And then that was the second one that we just talked about. The second edit was adding a statement around how their presentation will be connected to a goal or a guardrail. The next addition that I wanted to discuss was under the administration review section. I know that it takes a lot of time for our staff to help us put everything together. So I was hoping to discuss a statement that talks a little bit about staff prep time. So something that says, if a presentation would require staff prep time, the superintendent must agree that the work is worthwhile and fits within existing priorities before the slot is granted. This wording can be changed if we feel like it needs to, but it's more just to assure that our staff time is protected, that we know the presentation is going to be worthwhile. So something that, like I said, is more action oriented. If they give us a presentation on how we can do better, we can actually fit that into our committee. But I will let some discussion on that. If there's any. Member Jackson.
I think I would just ask, I'm sorry, I'm going to put Dr. Blakey on the spot here, but is that something that you feel is a good addition? Is it strong enough? Is it not strong enough? Because we want to make sure that we're not adding more staff work to something that should be a board role.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. I think that it is doable depending on how many come in. You know, I don't know what the workload would be on, like, if it's a call for proposals or if it just happens to be like, if you know about it, do you know what I mean? So based on how many we're looking at reviewing, it would kind of impact the workload. But I think in what I'm seeing, it's doable, but it could, depending on how many we have, it could get overwhelming.
So I will just answer that question real quick. So it won't be a proposal or sent out. It really is just if an organization or community member or student feels like they can inform us in some way to help our community engagement excel, then they should request a presentation. And I think that's the point of this edition too, is that if for some reason we get 10 presenters that want to come to a meeting, I know that there's a timeline on this document that says it needs to be 6 weeks in advance. But for some reason, if there is a ton of folks that want to present, we can decide from there the staff workload and also which presentation would benefit this committee the most. So with that clarification, oh, yes, I see a hand, Member Jackson.
Sorry, that just raised a question for me. How are we going to let organizations know about this opportunity? I guess that's it. How are we gonna let them know?
I guess that's a question for all board members. With our one-on-one relationship building, there's always chances for us to share that with organizations that we know. When we are doing our town hall events, we can always advertise that we have these committee meetings and that there's public forum as well as a chance to present to us. So definitely not hiding it, but I don't see us creating a proposal or sending that out. But even on social media, if board members are willing to put that out there, if they feel like they want to share that opportunity, then we can do that on an individual level.
Okay. No, I mean, I think maybe, right, like as we're out having our own, like our outreach events or something, and we can offer those opportunities up so that also that if we just get flooded, that we're receiving opportunities from across the spectrum that we're hearing from the broader community, not just because I happen to know such and such, they're going to present. So I just wanted to make sure that we were casting a wide net.
Yeah, and if that's something that board members feel like we need to create a process on as well, some type of media toolkit or anything that will help us ensure that this is being properly distributed, then we can work on that as well. Yes, Member Jackson.
Right. I guess I kind of feel like let's see how it goes first. Maybe see how it goes for the rest of this year. By the time this is implemented, then I think we'll be able to determine, like to Dr. Blakey's question, how much staff time is being used on this, how many times we're being asked to present. So I think this is a really good test case and is a really good, it's another avenue for us to hear input. So I don't think we have to create more workload for anybody just yet. Let's see how this goes.
That's perfect. That sounds great. So this was just a discussion item. So if I can just get some thumbs up from board members that we're okay with those additions, I'll go ahead and send those over. Yep. Great, perfect. So with that, I'm going to move on to the next item, which is 5.2, and that is an update on how and where board members may connect with families at school and district events. And our presenter is Superintendent Blakey.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. I believe this board item came up from discussion in our last meeting and really how we continue to strengthen connection with families and also keeping our roles clear, which came up a little bit in the previous conversation. So we do know that when board members are out at events and in the community, it does help to build trust with the community in the schools, and it shows the community that we're present and that we're listening. So we do want to be intentional about creating more of those opportunities, like at family nights, community events, literacy events, sports events, performances. And at the same time, we really want to be clear about the roles of the board and the administration. Also, to make sure that you're not put into a position where you're kind of on the spot answering administration questions like Board Member Betson talked about. And also that you're not in a position where you feel like you have to direct staff or solve concerns on the spot. So we want to make sure that we have the processes set up to really help everybody be successful in their community engagement and their visibility. We also want to make sure that the work aligns to the goals and the guardrails of the board. So when you're out in the community, that you're hearing from families about their experiences connected to the goals, whether it's reading, career-connected learning, their experience, are their kids earning a bilingual seal, an industry certification, how are they doing in math? So that helps give us context on the data that we're reviewing, and it really helps to ground the decisions in experiences. So to support this, what we were thinking might be a good way to do it is to share opportunities in at a glance of community events that we know about at schools. Of course, you might also hear about some, and in that sense, we just go through the normal protocol of letting the board office know if you're going to be at an event, because it's really important for these that if people are going to attend, we have to keep track of quorum as well. So if there are events, it's really important, no matter where it is, if people are planning on going, that they just give the board office a heads up that they'll be there so we can look for quorum. We were thinking that at the events, we can just put it in at a glance if people are interested in going, and then make sure that you have the Let's Talk contact cards, because I feel like that really helps you, that if you are in a position where they're asking you questions about something that the administration can help with, that you can give them at least something of where they can contact us. And also making sure that everybody has, and I don't know if new board members have or not, we can look into it, the Board of Education shirts, so that when you are in the community that you are able to kind of show who you are, and that's an easy way to do it. So we were thinking of just starting with kind of listing events that we hear about in the community, and then making sure that board members let us know when they're there for a quorum, and just making sure that everybody has Let's Talk cards in case they are in a situation where they want to make sure that the community and families have a place to go if they have questions.
Thank you, Superintendent Blakey. Is there any discussion or questions from other board members? Member Jackson?
Thank you. So Dr. Blakey, there's only 4 of us here, in this meeting. So I'm just wondering if you, or Chair Astorga, I don't know if you're planning to report out at the next meeting, but I think that this is probably an important set of information that should be shared with the entire board. So however that's going to happen, whether it's in like the at a glance this Friday or it's with board member Astorga reporting out, I think the 4 of us heard it, but maybe all 7 need to hear it.
Yes, thank you, Member Jackson. I will be giving a report tomorrow at the board meeting, so I'll make sure to add some of this in there. And then Superintendent Blakey, if you wanted to add anything during that time, please do so as well.
That's good. Thank you.
Member Betson or Member Martinez, any questions or discussion? Nope. Great. I had one question, Superintendent Blakey. There was an offer last committee meeting around possible board members going out to schools during pickup and drop off. In that sense, would the protocol, can you explain the protocol to us if we were going to a specific school?
Yes, I think pickup and drop off would be really difficult, just on a like logistical. Most schools are worried more about traffic and want people like to go through the pickup and drop off as much as fast as possible. So, I just kind of worry that that would be holding up some lines and then it could backfire on the pickup and drop off. So if it were, then we would coordinate it with the principal. But I do kind of worry just about the logistics because we are always trying to make sure that traffic doesn't get backed up. And so if somebody's trying to talk to every car, that could logistically be an issue with the pickup and drop off.
That's understandable. Thank you so much. Member Jackson.
Yeah, so here's where I'm going to get technical regarding the community engagement committee from from a student outcomes focused governance aspect is our engagement and outreach events, they really kind of only count if there's at least 2 of us there. And so the way that it was always explained to me is that if it's 1 person there, you're campaigning. If there's 2 people there, you're engaging. And so just like in this context, if just 1 of us is standing in the pickup and drop off line, that's more a campaign event. It's kind of like you're kissing babies and stuff. Really, our engagement should involve 2 board members. And the reason being is that I might hear something completely different than, board member Betson might hear. And then that way we can communicate, we can go back and say, well, what did you hear? What did you hear? Find consensus. And then so long as it pertains to the vision and values, then we can go back to Dr. Blakey and say, this is what we heard. So just personally, I'm very hesitant about us going out in singular fashions. And I know if I saw you, board member Astorga, in the La Cueva drop-off line, I might be a little upset because we got to keep these lines moving.
Well, maybe we'll keep those sections just for handing out flyers for our next town hall.
There you go.
Okay, any last questions or discussion before we move on from this topic?
Yes, Chairwoman Astorga. I think it's a great idea. Dr. Blakey, thank you so much for the idea. As you all know, I'm very interested in going to where our families are at. Games, activities, things like that, where parents are actually attending. Sometimes when we do host, these town halls and other events, we don't necessarily get the participation that we're looking for. And so I completely agree about that. I also, and it's actually on my list about APS swag and APS gear. So thank you for that. I'd love some polos, a size large. And then the Let's Talk cards. I think it's a great idea And if we could get those ASAP, because as we're out and about, those would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Martinez. Member Jackson.
Thank you, Chair Astorga. Just so you are aware, because I'm not sure that I let you know this, there is some funding over at the APS Education Foundation that will help us to purchase polos or new outfits. I'm a size medium. But I was thinking that the ones that we have the old logo, and so it might actually be cool if we all got new shirts that had the new logo. So, but there is funding over at the foundation that could potentially pay for that.
Perfect. Yeah, we can get maybe I can meet with our staff and see if we can get those ordered and use some of those funds. So thank you to our donors. We're also always accepting any donations of funds or in-kind donations that you would like to provide for us. So if there's any companies out there that would like to give us board member swag, that'd be really great. But awesome. Are we feeling good to move on to the next item? Yeah. Great. Thank you so much, Superintendent Blakey. So our next item is 5.3, and that's discussion of committee goals and tracking process. So this is the chart that you see in your diligent notes. So hopefully you all were able to take a quick glance at that. I'm going to pass it over to Member Jackson so she can give us some background.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Astorga. So when this committee was an ad hoc committee, we felt really strongly that it was important to set goals for ourselves so that we knew whether or not, to Board Member Martinez's point, whether or not we were actually getting the families and the engagement from those families or community members that are not usually going to attend events that we usually have. So we decided as a committee that we wanted to set goals, not only so that we would know where we were going and whether or not we were engaging to the level that we wanted to, but also we felt it was important that if we were going to ask the district to set goals and work towards those goals, that we needed to mirror that same effort and set goals for ourselves. So as you can see, we set 3 goals. One was centered on students. One was centered on board members. And then the other one, even though in this chart it's broken out, it was centered on families. And just again, to make that point, so often it is the families that are listed in our goals that often do not attend events or can't make it out for whatever reason. So we really wanted to focus our efforts there in order to increase participation, increase awareness, and increase the ability for the larger community to really understand what the board work was. So what we did is, after some initial discussion, we took these goals to the full board and had a discussion at an open meeting so that we could get full board buy-in as to what these goals were going to be. In fact, the very like the distinct numbers of we're going to go from 0 to 2,000, those were changed in the full board meeting, and so they were voted on and approved by the board, and so. I'd like to make that point that this was not a committee decision. This was a full board decision. So that's kind of where they came from. I will admit that I did a poor job of doing the tracking in the chart. I think that we are probably much closer to the goals than we think. And I'm sure that the data is there. I just did a poor job of getting the data from what board services had into the chart. But we are tracking it. We have the ways to do it. And I do think it's important because, as we've stated throughout this entire meeting, we need families to come and we need to engage with them. So that's a little brief background on how we got here.
Thank you, Member Jackson. And I think that background is really important because I wanted, one, to inform the committee about this tracking process and just let us know that we have it and it's something that's been used in the past, but also to make sure that we are reaching our goals, right? So continuing to use this chart or something similar if we decide to edit it in any way. And also be super intentional when we're out and talking to families and talking to students and letting them know that we feel like they are important and that they should be attending these events. So I will just open for discussion or questions for any board members. Is there any additions, edits with this chart that you all want to talk about? Okay. Yeah, Member Betson.
I was just going to say, I don't have anything. I think it's great to track, you know, who's coming, who's attending, and so that we have a good idea.
Great. Well, if there's no discussion, then I think making sure it's only a discussion item, then we can move on from that. I thank the ad hoc committee before us and Member Jackson for all the work that you put into this and making sure that we're intentional about who shows up to our events. And I will get with board services as well to see how we're tracking everything. I know that we as an ad hoc worked a little bit on how the check-in was going on at events. So I'll get with them again and make sure that there's no additions or edits that we need for checking in.
And I think Chair Astorga, I think kind of where I think we maybe fell short was just was kind of also like the board member accountability side of things. Board services is absolutely tracking, right? And so it would have it especially for the goal 1 and 2, if you're looking at this. It's you know, goal 3, where I'm sure board members were doing their outreach, but we just didn't let each other know, or we didn't have a document that was really easy to go in and just enter, you know, what we've done. So I think that if we could create, and I'm happy to help, or somebody else can do it, but just a really easy system for us to enter when we do our board outreach, who attended with us, and then maybe just a simple, you know, these are the 5 key things that we heard. I think that would help us to be able to track goal 3 better. Goal 1 and goal 2, I think it's just getting the information from board services into the document. So
that's a great point, Member Jackson. And I don't know how other members feel about this, but maybe we can ask for all board members when they do outreaches to send that in and at a glance so we can just get an update. And then as the committee chair, I can go ahead and add that to this chart. I don't know how folks feel about giving a details about our outreach events and at a glance.
I'm fine with it.
Great. Cool. So I will present that tomorrow as well, just so we have some type of documentation. So, Dr. Albright, I see you're on. Is there anything that you would like to add?
I just wanted to add that we do a virtual sign-in for all board engagement events. And that sign-in was specifically developed from these 3 goals. So that's what Board Member Jackson is talking about. We already have a virtual sign-in that's really quick for people to use on Chromebooks, and it already helps us track the goals. So that's one of the ways we're doing, especially goal 1 and goal 2.
Perfect. Great. Well, all of that is going to tie in really nicely, and we'll hopefully get some good numbers these next next week for our first 2 town halls. So I'll go ahead and present some of those numbers at the next meeting for us just to see where we're at. Any last discussion points before moving on? Perfect. Great. So our next item is 5.4, and that's a presentation on the May 23rd, 2026 United Game Outreach and Board Member roles. And the presenters will be Johanna King, Chief Communications Officer, and Shannon Barnhill, the Executive Director of APS Education Foundation. And I'll pass it to you, Ms. King.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee, and Superintendent Blakey. Executive Director Barnhill and I recently met with New Mexico United representatives to begin planning for the May 23rd public education celebration. The proposal is included in tonight's meeting packet. This will be the third year the board has used the soccer match as a community engagement opportunity. This year, we're proposing to highlight Goal 3, college and career readiness. One idea under development is a college and career fair at the stadium before the game from 6 to 7:30, featuring colleges, employers, APS departments, and community partners. As in the past, $4 from each ticket sold through the APS link will benefit the APS Education Foundation. Recommended roles for board members include promoting that link to families in the community, greeting students at the college and career fair, and distributing and collecting student passports for prizes, and possibly handing out APS stadium bags. Chair Astorga has also provided us with a list of New Mexico youth organizations that we can work with on this event. And so thank you, Chair, for that. And we look forward to tonight's discussion.
Thank you so much, Ms. King. And I think this is going to be a really great event. I'm really excited for the college and career fair and also the passport idea. So thank you so much for all the work that you both put into this. Is there any discussion or questions from any of the board members?
Can I beat Courtney?
You beat me. Go ahead.
Yeah. Just had a question. I think this is great. Absolutely great. I completely agree. I think the college and career fair is wonderful. My question was, what is or who is included in APS unions?
Well, we have 6 unions that we work with, and so we would include those. We would reach out to all 6 of those unions.
Can you let me know which one specifically?
So we have, oh my, help me if I miss any of these. That's okay. We have the teachers union. We have the union that represents the EAs and the bus drivers and some of the support personnel, secretaries. We have CWA, which is kind of our kind of labor union. Who am I missing here, guys?
So more educational, the educational unions.
You're right, exactly. Unions that they represent our employees. So, you know, and we have a variety of employees,
Sure.
right? So
Yeah.
run the gamut. So those are the unions that we would reach out to. But we did discuss that we could reach out to other unions as well. We have done some work with, for example, the Carpenters Union before, and pipe fitters before, so we could certainly reach out to them as well.
Yeah, I would be in favor of reaching out to some of the trade unions, and just I think they'd be more than willing to attend, but just to give our students and parents some ideas of what other opportunities are out there. You know, so I'd be totally in favor if the committee and the board is willing.
Member Martinez, if you have any contacts that you would like me to share, I put a document together for them with some contacts that I had. So this goes out to any board members. If you have any organizations that you feel would support college or career, and they can set up a table, please send me those and I will go ahead and pass them along.
We're also talking about including current employers. So organizations like Dion's or the Isotopes or New Mexico United, who employs youth. So if you have recommendations of businesses like that, we'd be willing to reach out to them as well.
Thank you, Ms. King. Member Jackson.
Thank you, Chair Astorga. So the first question, well, actually, let me start at the beginning. So I'm going to push back a little bit on this. It is our job. It's the board's job to reach out to these organizations. It is not the administration's job to do this. Like, very thankful that they are going to like send the information. But if we have organizations that we would like to reach out to, then this is the perfect opportunity for us to engage, right? It's the perfect opportunity for us to go to I'll say the Greater Albuquerque Chamber of Commerce and say, look, we're doing this. We would love to have you there. So yes, we should absolutely include them in all of the information that's going out. Let's get them into our spreadsheets, make sure that they're getting the information, they're getting the emails, but nobody's going to go unless they get a personal invitation from a board member. And so we have to make sure that we are doing our job as well to get people to come to these events. So that being said, sorry to be a little forceful about that, but
Can I clarify 1 second, Member Jackson, before you move on?
yeah.
So these organizations that we were sending to Ms. King and Ms. Barnhill were specifically to table at the event, not necessarily just to show up. So it's a little bit different. And if Ms. King and Ms. Barnhill, you would want more support in that specific area, we'd be more than happy to. But I just wanted to make sure that that was clarified.
Perfect. Yes, thank you. That is a clarification. I appreciate that because we do want tables there. I just, we want to make sure that we got people to attend because again, pulling back up, this event is meant to be a board engagement event. And so we as the board have to have as much involvement in this as possible, which then brings me to my next question. In the past, we have had the ability to receive feedback. I know it wasn't very widely used. Oftentimes we had like a QR code where we asked a question, around goal 1 or around goal 2 so that we could get the feedback on, just the general input. So is there something being planned? Is it in the passports? Is it in, how are we getting feedback from the community as to their knowledge about goal 3?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, and Superintendent Blakey, that's a great idea. We could certainly put it in the passport. That makes sense to include a QR code for feedback. So we can work on doing something like that.
Okay. And we had, the QR code linked, I think it was to a Google form where there were it was only like 4 questions. And I think Dr. Albright will correct me if I'm wrong, but just simple questions that we need to use those, right? Because again, the whole point of these engagement events is to make sure that the community understands the goals and the guardrails. So however we can do that would be fantastic. And I pointed out Chair Astorga's highlights earlier, so I have to point out Ms. King, great highlights. Love it. Looks great. You too, Shannon.
Everybody's just looking really good on the Zoom today. Awesome. Member Betson, did you have any questions or comments?
No, I don't think so. I think this is a great event. I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Anything else that you, Ms. King or Ms. Barnhill, have for us?
Thank you for giving us this opportunity to discuss this. We will begin now getting more details together and getting that information out to you all so you can promote the event.
Perfect. Thank you all so much for all the work that you're doing. And yes, please let us know where else we can help you all, and we'll start promoting soon. Thanks. Oop, perfect. So our next item is a discussion on the April listening session logistics. So we last board meeting selected a topic for our April listening session, which was safety. So the next piece is to come up with an agenda and logistics for that. So I had shared a little bit at the board meeting, but I do have a draft agenda outline that I would like to share with you all and get some feedback on. So let me bring that up real quick. Great. So I was hoping that we can do introductions as always. Something different that we haven't done in the past is an icebreaker with our participants. So I was hoping that we can have each participant get a green and red card or paper, and we can just ask simple questions that are true and false, and they can put up the green card for true and red card for false, just kind of to set the tone. I don't have those specific questions yet. I was hoping we can discuss a little bit about that, but some type of icebreaker that gets us all aligned. The next piece would be a presentation from board members on the why of these sessions. So what are the engagements, events, and why was this topic chosen? So mostly because our community members have asked about this topic or whatever topic it is that we're sharing. And then the staff will come up and do the presentation on the specific topic. After that, I would really love some table discussions, and board members would help do report backs from those tables. And this would be depending on the size of the event. And some of those guided questions I have are, what is your biggest concern as it relates to safety? And how can APS work with the community around safety issues? I was hoping to get a third question, but I wanted to leave that open in case there was anything that any board members would like to add as well. So after that discussion at the tables, board members would report back, and then we would offer it up for any other lingering questions that were not answered during the staff presentation. So after the question portion, then I would say that we would do a next steps and closing. So the next steps we would need help from the staff to say, okay, we heard your concerns and this is what we will do, or this is how board members can assure community members about what's happening next as it pertains to the specific topic. And then a closing question. So again, using those green and red cards, some of the questions that I would like for that closing is, did you feel heard today? And hopefully we get a lot of green cards. Or was your question answered? And again, hopefully we get a lot of green cards. And as we're looking at those green and red cards, if we see any red cards, I would love for board members to go to that family or go to that person afterwards and just assure them or talk with them to see what was missed or how we can answer any questions that they had. Yeah, and then we'll just close out after that. So that was my draft outline agenda. Is there any edits, questions around that? Member Betson.
So am I correct in that this is going to be our first one? Is that correct? The first time we've done this? So can we use this agenda and try it and see how it works, and then be willing to like tweak it if we need to? Is that the plan?
Yes, definitely. I think we're all learning, and especially since this is the first time that we do an administrative and board presentation together or event together, we're going to learn how not to step on each other's toes or how to answer questions from the community. So this is definitely, like I said, a learning session for us, but I wanted to make it a little bit more engaging than just a regular town hall where they just listen to us or we just listen to them. So that's why I added some of those activities.
Yeah, and I love the icebreaker idea. I mean, as a teacher, that's kind of like that's right down my lane, so I love it.
Thank you. Member Martinez.
Thank you. I didn't see a time on here. What does that look like? Day and time and the length of the meeting.
I believe we decided that last board meeting. Dr. Albright, I don't want to mess up.
And you definitely might have. I just, for the document that we have, I think it'd be good to just have that.
So at the board meeting itself, we talked about that, and I was tasked with finding a date that worked for administration. And we had recommended the week of April 27th. And as it turned out, Monday, April 27th is the only day that actually works for all the administration that will need to be there. So it would be Monday, April 27th. And we had discussed at the board meeting, it would be from 6 to 7:30, just the same as the town halls, to give people time to get to work. In addition, it will be hosted in the boardroom in order for it to also be live streamed and recorded.
Thank you so much, Dr. Albright.
Thank you.
Member Jackson.
Um, this is great. Thank you so much for putting like a run of show together so that there's something to kind of look at. The one question I had is, okay, so where it gets to so presentation from board members about the why of these sessions. So that's kind of that's like mirroring when we have our other engagement sessions where we kind of get up and talk about the goals and the guardrails and what engagement event, kind of like where we're doing again like our role. Is
Yes.
that's what you're talking about there? Okay.
Yeah,
And
so kind
then
of distinguishing between as board members in this event, this is our role, and then passing it over to administrative and kind of clarifying that.
okay, and not only like in this event, this is our role, but in the district, this is our role. Okay.
Yes.
So, okay, I just wanted to confirm that so that then when we turn it to the staff, they're the ones that will then go into the discussion on the issues of safety. Okay. So, I think maybe the one concern that I have is the opening it up for questions. That, as we've learned in the past, can get a little tricky because sometimes we have people that really like to hold the microphone, and then you have people that get upset because their question didn't get answered. So I'm wondering if instead of opening it up for questions, if we could use that like a QR code or a parking, what it's called, like the parking lot where they, you can put your post-it on the parking lot, or some place where all the questions can be collected, but it does get a little dicey when we open it up for questions. So that might be one thing that I would maybe reconsider. I do think that board members should absolutely be around and try to filter, but I think that's one thing that I might adjust.
Thank you, Member Jackson. How do we feel if we send out a QR code before the listening session just to gauge what kind of questions would be asked so that staff is prepared, and then at the event, another QR code where you can submit any questions that were not answered? And I think it might bring in some more engagement if we do something beforehand as well.
Yeah, I mean and then that might help to tailor the administration for them to know what maybe more the concerns are. I see, that seems like a good idea. I don't know, Dr. Blakey, would you like to weigh in here? I saw you leaning in.
Sure, Chair and members of the committee, I think that that's a good idea because that way people can ask questions ahead of time. And we could use that if we're like, we think that safety is about something and they really are kind of asking a lot of questions on something we weren't going to talk about. That way we can kind of adjust the presentation, because otherwise, sometimes you do the presentation and then there could be somebody who gets frustrated, like, I thought they were going to talk about something completely different, so I think that that's really helpful and it keeps it on track. Because if we do have just open questions without an understanding of the roles, or just board members being there as well, like we could have questions not related to safety for each of you. I think it's just helpful with the time. It's like an hour and a half, I think, right? So to keep it just kind of like pulling in all the questions ahead of time, I think would be really helpful. And we could ask them, to the staff during the forum as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Superintendent Blakey. I am going to give just some dates. If we open up a QR code on April 1st and close it April 17th, is that enough time? A week? It'll give you a week.
I think that's enough time. And then those questions, like we could pull some of them out that we can just answer. Some of them will be used to make sure we answer it during the presentation, and then some we could pull out and ask during the, depending on how much time we have, we can ask some of those questions during the presentation.
Thank you so much for accommodating that.
And I wonder, like, sorry, not to create more work, but as those questions come in and as the questions get asked at the event, it might be really helpful and demonstrative of responsiveness if those are all collected into a document that is then shared back out with the community of these are all of the questions that came in, here was the response. So if you can't attend or you weren't in the room, you still get a document that has the answers.
I think we would be able to do that and post it.
Okay.
That seems reasonable.
Great. Any other discussion on the run of show at all? No. Perfect. I want to just call Dr. Albright. Is there any other specifics that you need us to discuss other than that?
No, that's very helpful, and I'll do my best to try to find some red and green cards.
Perfect. I will also help out with that. Thanks so much.
I think we can
I'm
find them. I'll also kind of put together a list of things that are needed based on now the plan of action I'm going to show.
Member Jackson, did you have anything? I actually had one more question. I'm sorry. So I had shared 2 questions for our table discussions. The first one is, what is your biggest concern as it relates to safety? The second is, how can APS work with the community around safety issues? I left a third option open in case there was anything that other board members felt was necessary. So I wanted just to give an opportunity for any of you to add a question.
Can you read your second one again?
Yes, I'll do both. So the first is, what is your biggest concern as it relates to safety? And the second was, how can APS work with the community around safety issues? So kind of more solution oriented. And if we think 2 is fine, then that gives us a little bit more time.
I feel like I need to think on that.
We can always add one later.
I always like to kind of say, like, have a reciprocal, like one of the questions is, how can APS work around safety issues? But I also like the reciprocal of, how can you as a community member help us? So that it's, again, that's that two-way.
So maybe you can help me reword this, Member Jackson, because my intent with that second question is, how can we work together as community members? And
Okay, how can, maybe I wrote it down wrong. How can we work? Will you read it again?
yeah, well, my question was, how can APS work with the community around safety issues? But maybe it's, how can the community and APS work together? Something of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Member Martinez, I see you unmuted. Did you have anything?
Thank you. I just had a question. I know it was discussed either at the board meeting or the last committee meeting, where we were going to be a little bit more specific when it came to safety and kind of hone in, because safety can mean so many things to so many different people. And so I guess my comment or my question would be, do we want these questions to be more specific, or do we want to leave them kind of open, general safety?
Yes, thank you, Member Martinez. That was a part of a discussion last board meeting, and the consensus was, let's leave it open because administration knows best what questions are coming in and they're able to identify what would be better. And I think also with this QR code, it'll help tailor some of those questions to what safety means for certain folks. So, but yes, that was definitely part of our discussion.
Great, thank you for that.
Of course. Great. Anything else before we move on from this item? Great. Awesome. So let's move on. Our next item is 5.6, and that is discussion on the July listening session logistics. So for July, what we need right now is a topic. There were a few that came to mind, but I think something that we've heard a lot in community and even recently with some of the at a glances that the superintendent has given us is around right sizing. So that would just be a topic that I suggest for July, but I wanted to just share with you all and discuss what topics you all would think would be great for a July listening session. Anybody? Member? Oh.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I agree with that. I think that's definitely going to be a hot topic. I think a little more lighthearted topic would be nutrition or food. I know we've got a new nutrition services director and all the great things that are happening with her program and with Scratch Cooking that are coming next year. I seen through Let's Talk in different areas, coming through, parents and community members kind of concerned about the food in the cafeterias. I don't know if we can do like a few different smaller topics like that, maybe like nutrition, transportation, or so activities in athletics or something like that, where we can do a few like smaller topics, but completely agree with the right sizing. I mean, I think that's definitely more important, but just some ideas that what I've been hearing and getting.
Thank you, Member Martinez. I definitely wrote those down, and I agree. Sometimes our listening sessions need to be a lot more lighthearted. I'm going to pass it to Member Betson because I saw that you unmuted.
So yeah, I'm thinking that, I mean, right sizing is going to be obviously this big, huge topic that we're going to be talking about all year. And I know the district has committed to doing however many meetings that they need to with the community, which I really am happy for. I feel like July is kind of like people are on vacation, and to have such a serious topic. Maybe an intro, maybe it's a good idea to do an intro in July, but I just wonder like how much participation will we get in July because there's vacation and people are, I know looking at my own grandkids, their schedules are crazy in the summer just as much, they're in all kinds of different camps and stuff. So I'm just wondering if nutrition might be a good one to do in July, just because I feel like right sizing is so serious and such a big, huge, heavy topic.
Thank you, Member Betson. Those are really valid concerns, and I think that that's a great idea is to move that to a time where we know that a lot of more people will be in town and available. Member Jackson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm concurring with what you guys are saying, especially because some of that right sizing hasn't really been introduced yet. And so I don't think we want to jump out ahead of the parade necessarily in July. So I kind of like the idea of nutrition, or maybe it's a nutrition and what can your child expect starting in August? Like something that is kind of looking at beginning of school issues, or and we can let the administration decide what that is. I mean, I love the idea of nutrition and told everybody about the 51% scratch. Like that's super cool. So I kind of like that idea, and I absolutely think right sizing it is going to be a topic that we'll discuss, but let's not jump in front of that parade just yet.
Thank you, Member Jackson. I I really like the idea of nutrition as well, so thank you, Member Martinez, for bringing that up. I'm wondering if we can also add in our PE teachers and get some of them to do some activities with us. I don't know how you feel about that, Superintendent Blakey, but I know that they've been coming to public comment, and I just want to ensure that they also feel valued, and I think nutrition kind of ties in with some of the PE stuff.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. We can certainly try. July is a hard time because that is when people are off. So the teachers are off during that time. So it's hard to get them to present, and it's hard to get hold of them sometimes. The summer is just a hard time. We can also look at maybe adding transportation to food nutrition just because it's before school starts. So if people want to learn more about like, how do the buses operate? How do you know where the school stop is? How do you know, like, that usually is intertwined with like start times of school and that kind of thing. So I do agree with all of you that because of the timing of right before school starts, making it more pertinent, we might be able to get some more parents to come if it's like information on, and not to throw off your community engagement committee, but even if it's like before school starts, maybe they get like a free backpack or something if they come to the event. Like we have back to school drives during that time, so you might be able to tie it in just to get more attendance at that time too.
Thank you, Superintendent Blakey. Those are really great ideas. Maybe we can do some type of supply drive or backpack drive in that event. I also think we should look at dates. I hear that the closer to school probably is best, so maybe the end of July we can look at. So let me bring my calendar up.
I would say from the administration side, yes, the end of July is going to be the best. So what we could do is look at the week of the 27th, which is, I think, isn't that when we're doing it, the last Monday of the month, and see if that works for food, nutrition, and transportation, and then be able to hold kind of that same time, the last Monday of the month.
Okay. Thank you, Superintendent Blakey. I know that we had also discussed a possible Saturday might work better for folks just because of work and activities for students. So maybe we can also try that August 1st date if that's not too late. I don't know how the committee feels about a Saturday as a potential date.
I like the idea of Saturdays. When does school start?
I think it starts right after. So the Saturdays we can look at. Sometimes it's harder because we're asking the staff to come in to do the presentation. So I don't want to commit to this Saturday until I know for sure what their schedules are. The actual very first day of school is August 3rd. So that might be a little bit hard just because it might be really tight. They're really tired and really swamped that weekend right before the teachers come back on the 3rd and the students come back on the 7th.
So maybe we could look at and there's also the possibility that we would be like competing with other back to school drives.
Sure.
So maybe we could look at if Saturday was a possibility, we look the week before, like July 25th, if it's a possibility, and if not, then July 27th.
That's what I would recommend, is if we ask staff if they can do it the 25th, and then, or if we can't, then the 27th.
Perfect. That works. Thank you so much. Great. So just to kind of share back, we're looking at July 25th, Saturday, or Monday, July 27th for our July listening session. And the topic would be around food, nutrition, potentially transportation, and some type of physical ed. Dr. Albright?
Do you have a sense of location? If you want to have this be live streamed or recorded, it will need to either be at Bonifacio or in the boardroom. But if that's not a criteria, it can be anywhere.
I'll open it up to the committee. Do we have any suggestions on locations, or are those 2 locations okay? We're okay with those. Okay, so if we can just see if Bonifacio or the boardroom, either one of those will work for us.
Will do.
Thank you. I see a baby, so I'm getting distracted. How cute. So cute. Awesome. Is there any last questions or discussions on the July listening session? We have a topic and a date, so I'm pretty content with that. Awesome, great. So getting closer to the day, then we'll talk a little bit more about the run of show, just also seeing how our April session goes. We might want to tweak it a little bit, so I'm excited to see what that looks like. But that is it. The next item is item 6, chair report. So thank you all committee members for coming prepared and engaging in conversation around our next event. I just want to make sure that we continue to do some outreach for our town halls that are next week. I know that staff services will be sending out some social media flyers and other things that we can send out to do some outreach. So please, please, please get folks there so we can run up the numbers on our chart that we discussed today. That would be really great. Thank you to our public comment guests. It's always a pleasure. And yeah, that is it. Super excited for the events to come. So our next item is to announce that the next Community Engagement Committee meeting will meet Tuesday, April 21st at 2026 at 5:30 p.m. virtually. And you can watch on the APS Board of Education YouTube channel. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.